In the early 1970s, a young couple named Sarah and Tom moved into a house on Pine Street, in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The house was beautiful, but there was something unsettling about the basement. When they first moved in, they noticed a strange odor emanating from the basement, as if something had been buried there long ago. One evening, while Sarah was doing laundry in the basement, she heard a strange scraping noise from behind the walls. The noise grew louder, and Sarah felt the temperature drop. She turned around to find a figure standing in the corner, watching her silently. It was an older man, but the face was blank, as if it had been erased. When Sarah screamed, the figure vanished, leaving her shaken. After several more terrifying encounters, including objects moving on their own and strange whispers, at night they decided to investigate the history of the house. They learned that the previous owners had mysteriously disappeared, and it was rumored that the basement had once been used to imprison people. The hauntings intensified, forcing the couple to flee. In the 1980s, David, a college student, rented a cheap apartment in a house near his university in Virginia. The house was old, and the landlord warned him about the basement, but David didn't think much of it. After settling in, David noticed strange things happening in the apartment. Lights flickered for no reason, and he would often hear soft footsteps coming from the basement late at night. One evening, curiosity got the better of him, and he went down to the basement to investigate. When he opened the door, he was met with an overwhelming sense of dread. The air was thick, and the smell of mildew was overpowering. As he walked deeper into the basement, he noticed old, faded furniture and strange symbols etched into the floor. Suddenly, he heard a woman's voice whisper his name. Startled, he turned around, but no one was there. As he turned to leave, the door slammed shut behind him, trapping him in the basement. Panic set in, and David frantically searched for an exit. When he finally managed to escape, he vowed never to go near the basement again. However, strange events continued to plague him until the day he moved out, and the landlord mentioned that no one had ever lasted more than a few months in that apartment. Jessica and her family had just moved into an old farmhouse in the rural Midwest. The house was a fixer-upper, and they were eager to make it their own. However, there was one part of the house that Jessica dreaded: the basement. Every time she descended into the dark, musty room, she felt a strange pressure in her chest and a sense of being watched. Over time, the strange occurrences in the basement became more frequent. One night, Jessica was down there alone, organizing old boxes, when she heard what sounded like muffled screams coming from the walls. Terrified, she ran upstairs and locked herself in her room. The next day, she convinced her husband, Mark, to help her check it out. As they were exploring, they discovered an old, hidden room behind the basement's concrete walls, which appeared to be a former cellar. Inside, they found remnants of old chains, ropes, and a strange altar-like structure. It was clear that something sinister had happened there. After doing some research, they uncovered the horrifying history of the house. Local rumors told of a former owner who had imprisoned and tortured people in the very basement they were standing in. Despite the gruesome discoveries, the hauntings didn't stop. Strange voices, shadowy figures, and the oppressive feeling of dread continued to haunt the family until they were finally forced to leave.